Hey everybody, welcome back to the City Rev Life podcast. My name is Tati and I'm going to be your host today, and I am joined with Angelica and Pastor Josh.
What's up?
How are we feeling today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Angelica?
Today is a good day.
Yeah. Because
we're on the podcast.
Of course.
That's why
we
it's
love
a good
the
day.
podcast.
Mm-hmm.
What are we talking about today, guys?
Well, we're going to be talking about gambling. And we're kicking off a new series,
Yes.
right, Angelica?
Yeah,
She's the boss around here. She makes those decisions.
Oh my goodness. But
No.
we are kicking off a new series on gambling, and it's like, how do you live like Christ
Yeah.
and then gamble?
Yeah.
Or can you live like Christ and gamble?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can those two things coexist?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that question is coming up a lot right now because in 2018, I believe the Supreme Court came together, legalized gambling, pushed it to the states, I should say. And so one by one over the last few years, states have been legalizing it and bringing it back. Particularly mobile gambling has been a hot topic issue. And so I think it's 38 states now have legalized gambling mobily. So that means you can go on your phone and place bets, whether it be like a casino or sports. And so now it's like everyone's talking about it again. You know, is it biblical? Is it okay? Should Christians do it? I'm sure you guys have come across it at some point. I know I have a lot.
Yeah.
What's your experience with gambling been like? You have a past you want to share with us, Angelica?
I don't have a past in gambling, but it's always that idea of like gambling's in a casino. And
Right.
so I think a few years back we went to Vegas. And of course you stay in one of those nice hotels, and in the lobby is all gambling.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like I don't want to lose any money. I'm not gonna do that. But I want to watch.
So you're one of those. You just want to watch it. You don't want to participate.
Yeah.
You're afraid of losing the money.
I'm afraid of losing the money because, like, number one, I don't know how to play poker.
Yeah.
Number two, like, I can play blackjack, but I don't know. I don't even know if I'm good at it.
Right. I think I'm scared more of trying to play and then losing the money because I just suck and I don't know the rules and I don't know how to do the game. And
So
I'm like,
the fear of losing the money keeps you from even
Right,
participating.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And
I'm the opposite.
you're like, I know the game, so I
know
want to
I'm
play
good-
to
I'm
win.
good. I'm good. I'm gonna make money. Like I don't even need a job anymore. You know, not that I've had an issue with it
Wow,
necessarily.
already leaving us. This is your announcement, huh?
That's why they picked me for this podcast. No, I grew up with my grandfather playing poker. And obviously I was growing up, so it wasn't
Right.
with money. It was just with poker
play,
chips.
yeah, for
that
fun.
was no dollar value. And so that's a very different game.
Yeah.
When
Yes.
you're playing just the game of poker without money involved versus poker with money involved. Money is what brings all the tension
Yeah.
and the nervousness and the need for a poker face. You know, you throw money in there, now everyone's like. And so I went on a cruise recently. So obviously cruises, they're also known for having a whole floor for a casino.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the studies, but there were statistics that were like the amount of money that they make in the casino. It's like a good portion of their revenue on any given cruise.
wow,
They make a
really?
lot of money on the casino. And so I'm of the headspace, not that I've played much like at a casino, but I grew up playing these games, blackjack, poker, so I'm good at it, right? I hadn't really played for money, but I told my wife, Melanie, I was like, hey, I'm going to take $100. I'm going to go and play blackjack, and I'll be back here with 200. Okay?
Not the promise at the end of like,
I
I'm
was
coming back with money,
jokingly
honey.
confident, right? And I go down there, and I put $100 on the table, and the first three hands, I was up probably to around 200. And I'm like super confident. Everything's going
Yeah.
great. I proceed to lose like the next 9 hands.
Oh my gosh.
And ended up at 0. And it took everything in me to not put more money in.
Oh wow.
Everything in me. And I told Melanie, I made a promise, hey, I'm only going to take $100 and do this. And I lost it. And she said, you're never doing that again. And I said, until the next cruise, obviously.
Obviously, honey.
Yeah.
Just the next vacation.
I'll make it 300.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's in my family, there's been, this conversation comes up a lot because I should have asked my mom, she would know, but I think it's my great grandfather. It's a story it's told in our family on my mom's side. I believe it was our great grandfather or my great uncle or something. He lost his house from gambling.
Gosh.
Wow.
Like he had a huge gambling problem. And back in that day, you know, a good 100 years ago, 80 to 100 years ago, that's when they started making gambling illegal in a lot of states, because there were a lot of people having pretty dramatic issues with it and losing their possessions, losing their homes even, just from gambling.
Yeah.
So now I think it's taking off again because of the accessibility with technology that we have.
Yeah.
And the sports betting is
The
huge.
fantasy football.
Okay, well, don't pick on fantasy football, okay?
But is that a term? Is that kind of like gambling?
That's a good question. I mean, you can do fantasy football as a game. Most people do the game and bet some money with it.
Right.
You know, that's to keep it interesting, keep people involved.
Keeps the tension, all the things that we've been talking about.
Yes. And so that's a great question. I do think we should differentiate the two there. There's gambling, money that you might not have, money that shouldn't go to potentially waste, and you need it for bills and expenses and living and even maybe saving and investing because you're thinking about your future. Gambling to that extreme. And then I think there is a difference, even though it's still gambling, there is a difference between the office prize pool of $20 for the games.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's more of a game that you're paying to play versus
like a prize.
Versus gambling, like the business of gambling. Because when you're gambling on sports or casinos or all that, that's a business you're engaging in, and their business is making sure they end up with more money.
Yeah.
Like they're gaming you. The saying is the house always wins.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think there's a lot of similarities, but there is some we should differentiate a little bit there when we're talking about it, because one might just be a game that you're paying to play, like we would pay for entertainment or whatever. And we'll talk more about that in the next episode. It depends on you and
a heart posture.
Yeah, and your ability to have discipline and knowing yourself and how you handle addictions, because it very well, both things, even though we're differentiating there, both things can be addicting and dangerous. And so just knowing yourself. But yeah, I think it's exploded now because of mobile betting.
I mean, everything's on our phone, so.
Yeah.
And then no one can tell that, like, you can do that secretively, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So, and that can be even more addicting.
That is dangerous.
That is a rising issue. And I'll go out to the basketball courts. I typically play on Thursday nights. And so I'm surrounded by, I'm going to sound old, but younger guys.
Wow.
They're like
30s
in college,
are hitting, huh?
like 18 to 25, I'd say is probably the average age. There's a few people that are up there with me.
He's struggling a little more on the court.
No. I'm trying to keep up, okay? Trying to stay young. But they are all betting on sports. I mean, that's the topic of the court. Like, what game's on that night, and they're doing bets. And nowadays, because of the accessibility, you're not just betting on who's winning the game. You're betting on that player's going to get 10 points.
Oh, wow.
Or if you can do a prop bet and do a string of bets. You can say, all right, this player's going to get 10 points. This player's going to get 4 steals. This player's going to get 20 rebounds, and this team's going to win. And if all 4 of those come true, obviously the odds are a lot lower, but you can turn $15 into $200.
Oh, wow.
And so they're all there playing basketball, and then between matches going and checking the stats of the game. You know, and I do understand the appeal. It makes the games so much more interesting.
Yeah, there's buy-in.
You have buy-in now.
Right.
You're so locked in. And then what happens is, what we're so used to with our smartphones, is that dopamine hit.
Yeah.
If you get one and you just won money, and now you're just like on a high, and they know that. These companies know that. And so statistics show us that the odds are that person is then going to put that money back in to the next bet even more confidently, because they want that dopamine hit once again.
Yeah. And it was just so easy to make that.
Because $15 is like, it's like a lunch. That doesn't sound like a lot.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, if I can only do 15, what can I do with more money? And it just builds that up.
And that's what mobile betting has given us, is well, now you don't need to go to the casino on a $200 minimum buy-in table. You can now with $3
Yeah.
throw in money and
crazy.
maybe win 200. And the rush of that makes these people want to watch these games all the more. They get more into it. And then what naturally happens is the more dopamine you get, the more it takes to actually feel the hit.
Yeah.
So then what you naturally go down that road that takes you is, okay, now I need to be able to feel it. I need $200 in the line, not just $3.
Yeah.
And you just fall that road down, which has been how gambling has been a problem for centuries, if not millennia. It's not a new thing. Gambling has always been around. It's just been presented in new ways. It's always been an issue. That's human nature.
Yeah.
To just, okay, now we got to go a little bit deeper in that down that road.
Well, then now that we know that that's something so simple and it's part of the modern culture, like, how do you, like, where can we find wisdom in that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything in the Bible that says that?
So Scripture doesn't specifically address gambling. That word gambling is not.
Thou shalt not gamble.
There is no, that's not part of the 10 Commandments. It's not the 11th commandment.
Yeah.
The principles are there, though. Because if we just were to define gambling, you could define it as gambling involves wagering money or valuables on uncertain outcomes for profit or pleasure. And there's a lot in the Bible about just wisdom.
Okay.
So, again, if we were to differentiate between just paying to play a game versus like gambling money you might need or an excessiveness, there's a lot of principles there that we are potentially breaking. So it's not necessarily a sin issue unless it's the extreme.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're a grown man that's called to provide for your family and you're gambling money away that you need, that could potentially be a sin issue. But typically when it comes to gambling, it's not a sin issue. It might be a wisdom issue. And again, I don't think there's necessarily on one end something wrong with it, but more on that in a moment. A couple of verses that I think are good for this conversation, and I'll just read them. 1 Timothy 6:9-10. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and harmful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil, for which some have strayed from the faith in their greediness and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. So some harsh words from Paul writing to Timothy about just the greed and the love of money and the kinds of evil that leads to. He puts it this way: desire to be rich.
Yeah.
Man, that if you were to sum up our American culture in a few words, that could be one of them.
Yeah.
We
Get
live
rich
in
quick.
Get
Yes.
rich quick. What are the rich people doing? All that.
Yes. And it's like when you ask yourself, or you ask that person, why are you gambling? Typically it's because, at one point it might begin with, the rush. I love watching the games. It quickly turns into, oh man, what could I do with the $200 that I could win? And that's how it starts. And it's that desire to get rich quick. It's also the desire to not work for it.
Yeah.
And just get it, win it. There's something to be said about that too. And the Bible has a lot to say about work ethic.
Yeah.
And
Try
how
and cheat the system.
Yeah, we try to work around it.
Right.
We're called to be hard workers and to work as if we're working unto the Lord and not unto ourselves or any man or woman. We're working for God. And work inherently is like a win-win situation, right? They get our labor and we're providing a service and we are getting money.
Right.
Gambling is inherently, it's a win-lose situation.
Yeah.
The house is losing or we're losing and we're trying to win and try to get great outcomes out of it without actually having to work.
Yeah.
Right.
And we think we deceive ourselves, or these companies deceive us into thinking we can just gamble our way somewhere. I don't know that anyone actually believes we can make a living gambling, except the few professional poker players out there.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
That actually know what they're doing.
Yeah, I know one in particular, and it seems like it's their job So I'd have some questions about that.
Yeah.
You know, like what at the end of the year are you actually netting? Are you actually
Yeah.
making money? But I guess if you're a good poker player, you can take other people's money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so maybe there's some ethical concerns there too.
Yeah.
But they're willingly gambling it. So let's keep going because we're going to talk more about this on, throughout the series. But Proverbs 13:11, wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it.
It's that idea of like, if you work hard for your money, you'll be a good steward of that
Yeah.
money that you earned.
Yes.
Because you know how much work it took to earn it.
Right.
But then if it's given to you, like, well, that was just easy money. You really don't care about it, and there really isn't any stewardship of it,
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
I can spend it on this and I can spend it on that. It's kind of like the idea of like, you hear all those stories about those who win the lottery. They don't know what to do with it, and they buy
Yeah.
these cars
Right.
and homes, not realizing the utilities that cost to make that home be a home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's crazy. That's good.
Yeah, Proverbs is giving us that wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
It's saying exactly that, and I think the word you used is perfect. It's stewardship.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay if you didn't work hard for this money, you got to that point for a reason. You managed your money well, and so you've gained little by little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you get a large sum, you gain it hastily. You haven't built the discipline and learned how to steward your money when you had a little. So when you have a lot, it's not overwhelming.
Yeah.
But when you gain it hastily, it's incredibly overwhelming, and you don't know what to do other than to just spend it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what our culture encourages is like,
Yeah.
you deserve this, you need this, like all of that of like, they just constantly want you to purchase items and to spend more money. And so it's just going back to like reading the scriptures of like the importance of stewarding our money well and bringing it to the Lord first and figuring out, okay, what does God want me to do with this money? Not what can I spend this on,
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Another verse that hits on the same subject there is Ecclesiastes 5:10. This is Solomon again writing. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This also is vanity. I mean, Solomon oftentimes sounds like just a depressed guy. Right?
Yeah.
And that's because Solomon had everything you could possibly imagine or want in the world.
Yeah.
And he's like, trust me, it's not what you think it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Solomon is most likely the richest man to ever live. It's hard to quantify his wealth because he didn't have US dollars.
Yeah.
But when you look at what he owned and his possessions, some estimates put him as high as a trillionaire.
Oh wow.
Like
Wow.
Elon Musk at the time of this recording has surpassed anyone ever in the history of the modern world at a net worth of $410 billion, which is staggering. It's hard to comprehend that
How
amount
much
of
money? Yeah.
Yeah.
And the best guesses we have on Solomon are more than double that.
Yeah.
So he had everything you could ever possibly want and not want. And he's writing these words both in Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. Like you don't understand. Like if you love money, it's all vanity.
Yeah.
And once you get it, you're gonna realize how empty it is.
Yeah.
And he's speaking to what we know, I think innately, is what we're actually after is purpose
Yeah.
and forgiveness, and we know we find these things in Jesus.
Yeah.
But money makes a great idol. It can give you all the things that you might want: comfort, control, power, and it all ends up empty, but it deceives us. And so we want it. We want as much as we can
Yeah.
of it, and we chase after it. God is the one who ultimately provides.
Yeah.
I heard it said once that you have exactly as much money right now as God wants you to have. And I wrestled with that statement
Yeah.
because depending on where you're at right now, that statement might awaken some or remind you of some discontentment that you have.
Yeah.
But it's true. If God wanted you to have $40 million right now, he could have a lottery ticket, the winning lottery ticket,
Right.
fall out someone's pocket into where you're going to step out of your car one day and you have it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if that would work. I think the person who bought the ticket would be able to, you'd trace it back and whatever. But the point is,
Logistically, this doesn't make sense,
yeah,
but it's okay.
No, but the point is, like, you could, your great aunt that you never met couldn't leave you with $1 billion.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
you just, God can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
He can give you whatever he wants, but he oftentimes uses money to teach us things,
Yeah.
and to mature us and build character.
It's funny too, but me hearing that can feel like, I just feel like it's also freeing in a way if you flip it on its head of like, God knows what you need. He's providing exactly what you need. And maybe you just need to adjust what you think your needs are and what your like necessities are in a way, and re-examining that of like, well, what does God want me to use my money with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's really good. It's really good. I think another thing to talk about in this, and we will again in the future episodes, but in this conversation, that's probably helpful, is the stock market. Is that gambling? Because I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but I've heard it a lot. Like, well, it may be gambling, but when you invest, that's gambling too.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think the word invest is what can be tricky.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
I'm investing in my favorite football team. They're going to win.
He's like, I'm invested here.
so yeah, it's the words, it's the terms that we use.
Right.
We use it as with the stock market. You don't talk about, hey, I'm gambling on this stock. This stock is going to do very well.
Right.
Or I'm gambling on this company.
Yeah.
You're using a different term. It's invest. And so with that, it sounds like you are trying to be good stewards of your future with the money that God has given you.
Yeah.
But I
Yep.
can get the idea of really, I mean, what are you really doing?
Yeah.
You are using your money, gambling that this company is going to do well, and there is the risk that it doesn't.
Yeah.
And then you could lose it all.
Yep. Yeah, I think so statistically you're right, because they say you're more likely, this is crazy. You're more likely to make money gambling, and I think it was like a specific way of gambling. It might have been like poker or blackjack or something, but they say you're more likely, it's very close. You're more likely to make money doing that than you are betting on the right stock.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, that's actually crazy.
Yes.
Because like usually they're all like, you should invest. Like the stock market's the place to go. Like,
So yes, that's still true. The nature of gambling is, again, the win-lose scenario.
Right.
When you're investing in a stock, it's technically a win-win scenario. You're investing in a company that has intrinsic value. It's got a revenue stream. They're making money.
right.
And so the idea is you're giving them money to continue making money. And so now they make more money because they have your money, and you're also going to make money because the
right.
stock goes up. So
Yeah.
everyone's winning. In theory, if you're
if everyone does what they're supposed to do, we all win.
Yeah, exactly. And you will make money. So that's not technically gambling. You're investing in a stock. But to bet on the right stock is where the gambling might come in.
Right.
And so there are really wise ways of investing where it's like mutual funds, thousands of different stocks in one pool, and so you're kind of riding the market and stuff like that. And statistics show if you're investing for the long term, you're almost 100% likely to make money, especially when you diversify. That's biblical. When you look at the parable of the talents,
Yeah.
Jesus is praising the person who is taking a little bit of risk and investing to make more talents.
Yeah.
There is risk involved, but they're going out and trying to use what they have to make more of it. Other Proverbs in Ecclesiastes, they speak to that. There was one verse in Proverbs that says, "Set your portions to 7, yes to 8, for you do not know what disaster may come upon the land." So we're also not called to just like build a pile of cash and just sit on our money.
Yeah.
We should be giving it, being generous. We should be investing it to make more.
Yeah.
Like there is a differentiator there. There is a way to use the stock market to gamble.
Yeah.
And I think people will do that. And I don't think it's wrong if like you believe in a company, you've researched a company to invest in it.
Yeah.
You're doing the work to make a
trying to
wise
make a wise-
decision
yeah.
to the best of your ability, and you might lose, and that's the risk you're taking, but you're hopefully not investing, your mortgage that month.
It's not done hastily.
Right.
It's not done hastily.
It's done with preparation and a budget and
Yes.
prayer.
And I think what's important there too is like, where's your heart when you're doing that, right? Because there are times where there are people who do invest in the stock market, and they are watching every little move that that company is doing or what is happening with that stock, and they are consumed with it. I've seen it. I graduated with a finance degree, and that happens.
Yeah.
Like, you can get so involved in it that it consumes all your time
Yep.
and your heart in it. And just what happens to a person who loses in the stock market
Yep.
is, it's like the same response as someone who's gambled.
Yeah.
And so really, I think even when it comes to, hey, we're doing fantasy football or anything like that, anything that you place a bet on or there's a prize that's cash, it really is like, the question is, where's your heart?
Yeah.
That's good.
And it's a matter of where are we positioning our heart.
Yeah.
Is it filled with the Holy Spirit? Are we using wisdom that's given to us in the Word of God? Or is it like, hey, this is a great way to just really make money? And then that's where you see the words like greed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they have metrics to measure where the stock market is based on fear versus greed.
yep.
If things are up, greed is typically high, and it's never enough. So if greed is high, typically the market's climbing because everyone's just throwing money in, and they get FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Yeah.
They're throwing money, and then bad news hits or something corrects a little bit, and all these overinflated or overvalued stocks or whatever it may be, people will get afraid. And now fear takes over, and now everyone's selling. And it's like, well, no, the company's worth that much, but now they're undervalued because everyone's panic selling, and greed and fear. It's bouncing back and forth. And I think you're exactly right, Angelica. Like, God's called us to just kind of be stable with our emotions and wisely approach things. And if we're investing for long term, we're not worried about the day to day anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've made that mistake. Or I've researched, because I enjoy it. I enjoy researching companies and looking at the financials and trying to find a good company to pick. And there's a single stock I'm in right now that's my minority diversification, if you will. I put money elsewhere, but then there's this one stock I was like, all right, I'm gonna invest in this a little bit because I believe in it. I'm excited about it. And I found my heart doing that.
Yeah.
Watching the ticker every day. And then when it's up, I'm like, oh, I've made money. As if I'm going to sell it. I'm not.
Right.
But it just feels good. And then it's down, and I'm like, I'm really down that day, and maybe I'm a little grumpy. And it's like, I just need to delete it. Get rid of it. Don't look at it.
Right.
If I'm going to do that, that's not good for my heart. And then that amplified.
Yeah.
If we go down that road too long, it can be very unhealthy. And I think it goes back to the word that you used, Angelica, is stewardship.
Yeah.
That idea of steward, that's the picture of like, if you were to say, I own this business and I want you to manage it, you're counting on them to be a good steward of your business. And that's how we're taught to look at our own finances. Everything we've been given is from God. Everything we have is from the Lord.
Yep.
And we are stewarding his possessions that he has given us. So if you look at what you have in that light, would God be happy with the way you're managing his money and his finances?
Yeah.
If what everything you have, your house and your cars and your money and everything did belong to someone else, would they be happy with how you're managing it?
Yeah.
And that gives you that opportunity to kind of take a step back and look at yourself and ask yourself, like, am I honoring the Lord with the way I manage what he has given me? And I think that's really the question that we should be asking when it comes to the conversation of gambling. Like, can I, in a good conscience, say, if I put my money in this place or use it in this way, that I can stand before the Lord and say it was an okay decision. It was a good decision. And I think there are some scenarios like me. I don't know that me taking $100 to the blackjack table, probably unwise. I lost it so fast.
Yeah.
On the other hand, like, I budgeted for it. I
Yeah.
wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I essentially paid $100 for 10 minutes at a blackjack table, which is stupid. But I've wasted. I've spent more money on dumber things.
Yeah.
So it's not the wisest, but I'm not gambling what I can't afford to lose, and I'm maintaining my heart posture. And so I feel like I could easily be argued against that was a dumb decision.
Yeah.
But I don't know that was necessarily bad stewardship.
Yeah.
And I also put $50 on a fantasy football team this year, and I won. So I
He beat
made
my
money.
husband, everybody.
So
I'm
now
not happy about it.
I did. I beat your husband in the finals.
not
So we
okay.
both got
Wow.
money. I just got a little bit more.
Whatever.
But it was in my perspective, I paid $50 to play that fantasy football league,
Yeah.
and I didn't put any more money in sports betting. So like I'm okay with paying $50 to play this game that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
And there's not like more money being thrown every single week and stuff. Would that make it wrong? Not necessarily, but again, it's case by case, and everyone's different. And we'll talk more about our hearts and stuff in the coming podcast. But those are things that we need to question and stand before the Lord and say, am I being a good steward of what God has given me, and is this a wise way to use my money?
Yeah, I love that. I love that question, like putting it back on us and putting a perspective on, would God be happy with how I'm stewarding my money, how the money that he's given me to use wisely? Like, are these good decisions to make? So I think that's a great question for us to end on and to think about. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on the City Rev Life podcast. We're happy to keep continuing this conversation next week. See you then.
Thank you so much for listening to the City Rev Life podcast. Feel free to subscribe and leave a rate and review. We love it when you share it with your friends on social media, so don't forget to tag us at cityrev.church. If you're interested in more resources, download our City Rev Church app and follow us on social media. Have a great day.